If you need an assignment tracker, in today's video I'm going to show you how to build this one from scratch, including the knowledge of how to modify this for your own use. And this includes features like a customizable drop-down list, the ability to quickly sort by different columns, be able to filter by certain subjects, and in general just monitor where your assignments are and what ones are coming up. So let's jump right in. So I'm going to skip down a couple rows and then I'm just going to start typing in my headers. And so I'm going to leave a blank column here. You can either leave this or remove it, depending upon your preference. And then I'm going to fill in the rest of these columns. All right, and then I'm going to resize this down to 20 as well, and then get rid of the rest of these columns. And so then in here, I can go ahead and set a little bit of formatting here, and then change this background color. And so this one, I'm just going to set to a custom color. You can either pick one from here if you like, or find one online, and you just need that hex number. So I'm just going to do one here, and then change that font color there, and we'll change it like that. This will be our column headers, and again, you can adjust this as needed for whatever columns you need, but we'll just build it using these for this example. And then we're going to tweak the width on these a little bit. And so you can either just click and drag, or if you want to set it to a certain size there, you can do that as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and suck these down a little bit, and there we go. So let's go ahead and just add today's date in here, just so we can see that visibly, and also for our formulas. So we're going to use this days left to determine how far away our due date is from today. And so let's go ahead and add a little border around this. And then let's go ahead and center, and then set font here like this. And then I'm going to add a background to this one as well. And so this one, I'm going to pick one here. And then we'll go ahead and add a little title in here, and you can leave this out as well if you like. And then let's add another color here. And then finish a little formatting. And then finally, maybe we'll count how many assignments we have. And then maybe we'll copy this formatting over here. And now we just need to remerge those horizontally, just like that. All right, so at this point, I can maybe get rid of my grid lines. And you can see that I'm looking for a pretty clean look. And so let's go ahead and just add a certain number of assignments. Then I'm going to get rid of the rest of these. So hold down Shift here, click and delete. And if you need more, you can obviously add more. And then what I'm going to do here is add some alternating colors. And then I don't want that header one. And I'm going to change this to this color I added. And that should do it there. And then I'm going to add a little bit of border. So let's add something like that in between. Just give us a little differentiation. Maybe go a little bit lighter. There we go. And then if we want to, we can add a border around this, or what I'm actually going to do is add a filter, and I'm going to show you how to work with that before we're done. I can just do a little tweaking here. And so what this allows us to do is be able to sort that data quickly, which is going to be useful when we get this data added. So let me add a little border there. If you see a little off, it's probably just missing a border in that region. All right, so next we're going to add some drop downs in here. but instead of doing the drop downs from here and typing these in, I'm actually going to set them on a different tab. We'll call this drop downs, and then we're going to add it on this tab just to make that a little more streamlined if you want to change or edit those later. And so we're going to do a couple of these here. And then we can go ahead and get rid of this for now. Get rid of the rest of these columns. And maybe just get down to here. And maybe do a little beautification, so to speak, on this real quick. Just give us a little bit more of a consistent look. All right, so I'm going to just copy and paste some options in here. You can do whatever options you want for your set, whatever makes sense to what you need. But these are just the ones I'm going to use for now. And then over here, I can now make some drop downs. And so I'm going to go ahead and select this column here, right click, go to drop down. Instead of typing the options in, I'm going to select drop down from a range. And then I'm going to click on this select data range here, click in this one, and I just do this sequence to keep from misclicks happening as frequently. So now I'll go over here and select my subject and course. And then you can either keep the chips if you like that look, or we can change that to arrow. So you can kind of see what those look like. And you can also change the colors in either way of what colors you want those to be. So we can select some colors here if you like. So there we go. And then we can add those. And what this will allow us to do is when you select those, they'll show up in that. So if we go back to this, and then let's do this real quick. Let's actually go to data validation, and actually edit this rule from here. So if we go back to chips as an example, I just want to show you the difference in how those look. So this one just highlights this. The other one highlights the whole cell, just like that. But you also can see the chip gives a little less room. And so if you don't want to make the cell wider, then you want to use arrow. So let's do that for now. And then let's add the rest of these dropdowns. So let's do status, right click, drop down from a range, click and select data range, and then do our status. And then I'm just going to do arrow on this one as well. So I'm going to add overdue, complete, in progress, maybe a blue, and then not started. We do brown or yellow, whatever makes sense there. And then we'll do priority. And then if you already had this open, you can just hit add rule there. Maybe we'll change this one to blue, yellow, and pink like that. And then finally, we'll do type. And so again, we can go through and set those colors here as well if we like. So maybe we'll start with this one and then go through it like that. Perfect. All right, so now we're done with our drop downs. And so let me just add some sample data in here real quick, and then we'll proceed with the rest of this. So one more data validation we need to add is on this due date. I want to be able to double click and enter this rather than having to type everything in. And so I'm going to select this again. And then kind of like we did before, I'm going to do the drop down, but this time criteria, instead of drop down from a range or drop down, I'm going to come down and do is valid date. And then I'm just going to do reject input just for good measure. And now if I double click here, I'll see those pop-ups. And so we can see as of the recording, it's November 13. And so I'm just going to pick some dates in the future here. And maybe drag those down. Looks like it'll just film like that for us. And then I'm also going to change this format here. It's a little wide. If I don't want the 2-digit year, I can look down here. Maybe it'll be up here. Otherwise, you can come down to custom date and time. and then usually you can find one of these. If you find this one, you can just come here and change that. And that gives a little bit more streamlined. You can actually even remove the year as well. If you don't need that in there, don't want that in there, you can do that as well. And it makes for a cleaner look if that's what you like. All right, so maybe we'll make this priority just a little wider. There we go. So now what we have here is we need to enter in how many days are left because we want to know how many days until the assignment is due. And so what I can do here is actually equals and then select this due date minus today's date, which I have there, and I show that I have 2 days left. Let me go ahead and center these as well. There we go. And so that works, but if I drag it down, I come up with some weird error, and the reason is because this went down to that blank. So what I need to do here is add a $sign using F4, and I only really need it before the 3, so if you have to add it manually, just do it there. If you don't have an F4 or the F4 does not add the $signs. But if that works, then you can go ahead and do that and let it drag down. And one thing to keep in mind is if you do this, it shows up with a negative. And so if you want this to apply to ones down below that, but you don't want that error, then you could do something like if C6 is equal to blank, do nothing, otherwise show that. And now if we click and drag this down, it shows nothing on these, but you can see that formula is still there. And so if we add a due date, then you can see that pops up. Our alternative approach on this, instead of doing a formula in each cell, is we could do a modification of this inside this one. And so I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. So we do equals, and then we do a curly bracket, 2 double quotes around my title, and then after my title, I'm going to do a semicolon, because what this is going to do is this is creating a custom table or custom array, and this semicolon means a new row. And so that's going to leave this days left on the top row. And then let me just put, for example, 2 like this. So now you can see days left and then 2 in the next row. But instead of doing that, I want this to populate all the way down. And so what I'm going to do instead of this is array formula. And now I'm going to do my if statement. If C6 is blank, do nothing. Otherwise, C6 minus B3. And then do some closing parentheses there. Enter. And look at that. Now it's showing up just like it was before. But now we don't have any formulas in here. So now I can select again, just like I did before, and there's that days left there. So let's jumble this up just a little bit so we're not exactly sequential there. Let's just do like this. And maybe one of these will be due today. So one thing we could do here is add some conditional formatting if we want to see those highlighted. I'll show you that here in a second, but first of all, I'm going to show you how to sort. So we have this filter on here, and so one thing you can do is let's just select some different subject here. So we could sort by subject, and we can see those are now sorted alphabetical order. We can come over here and sort this by the one due today, or we could do reverse sort, Z to A, and I'll show the one that's furthest away up top. You could also do a little selection here, and let's say we only wanted to see the English assignments, hit clear, click English, and there's just our English assignments. If you want to reset, just click on this and then go back here and select all 8, and you can see them all again. We can do the same thing with priority and get these in there as well. And so another thing you could do as well on some of these, if you don't want them to be super wide, but you want to see the whole thing, is you could come in here and make these a little bit smaller as well, if that makes sense. All right, so one thing over here that we did not add yet is how many assignments total do we have? And so we can do counta, and then just start with this first cell, and then colon B. And that does not look right, and the reason why is because it's formatted as a date. So we need to come up here to more formats and change that to a number. And then we don't really need decimal places, so we can come up here to shortcut and get rid of those decimal places. Let's look at how to add some conditional formatting if, for example, we have 0 or 1 day left. So we can do it either just in this column. And so that's what I'll show you first. So I'm just going to select this column, format, conditional formatting. And then we can just say if less than 1, for example, or we could do is equal to 0. We could change that to something pretty bold like this. And that works just like that. Now, what if we want maybe the assignment or the whole row? And so if we want that to happen, let's change this to custom formula. And then what we're going to do is equals $D6. And so how I'm coming up with this is I'm looking in column D, and then I want to lock it because I only want it to apply when that number is in D. And then I'm starting with the same row that I'm starting this with. Now, one thing you'll note, let me actually finish this up real quick, equals 0. And so one thing is the blanks is showing up. So it's rendering blanks as zeros, which is interesting, right? The other thing is it's not highlighting the whole row. So first of all, we need to change this apply to your range. So I'm going to go to B. Let's just start with that first. And you can see it highlighting there. So at this point, we could change it to J and highlight the whole row. But we're still highlighting those blanks. So what I'm going to do here is do and D6. Oh, let me add a opening parentheses there. D6 is not equal to blank. And so I'm just going to combine those two statements with this and. So I just want to see if D6 is not blank and D6 is equal to 0. Now I don't have a $sign before the 6, so this will apply all the way down. So for example, now if I change this to 13, you can see it turns to 0 and highlights red. So that'd be how we could do red, and then we can apply done, and then we can add another one. So let's just start from scratch so you can see where this comes from. So format, conditional formatting, and there's that rule we just made. So we can copy this. We can add another rule to duplicate it. And then here we could say maybe is equal to 1. We could change this to maybe orange or yellow, just like that. Now, if we wanted to highlight anything that was, let's say, less than 3, we could do that here as well. And then it'll highlight anything less than 3. If you want to include 3, then you do less than or equals to, just like that. And one thing you'll note is it's not coloring the 0 as yellow, even though theoretically it's less than 3, because conditional formatting applies the first rule on top. And then if that's not true, then I'll look down through the rest. So the way you can tell is if we click and drag this above, now it's yellow. That's a quick way to see how that works. All right, and so that's how you can do that. And then here you can see it's kind of blurring a little bit because we don't have horizontal lines. And so let's go ahead and add that real quick just to give us a little more clarity if we have some of that formatting next to each other. So we just add these horizontal borders right there, and then that looks a little bit nicer there. All right, and then what if you mark something as completed? Now, if this was yesterday, for example, it's going to show up as -1. And so we could handle this and do our conditional formatting and do something like if F6 is equal to complete, and we could actually just get rid of the rest of these. And we could change this to green then. And then if you remember before, if we drag this up top, now you can see it showing up like that. So we could do this for completed assignments. The other option is we could just duplicate this whole tab and we could call it completed. And then let's just delete those for the moment. We could just take these and then copy and paste them over here. And so here we'll probably just do this as days left. And then whatever point that came over. And then over here, we could just then delete that row. And so that would probably be a better way to do this, just to keep this uncluttered. And so whenever something gets complete, you can move it over. And so you can just kind of copy and paste. And so here I'm just doing the whole thing like that, and then delete it just like that. The other thing is if you want to be able to sort by multiple columns, And so let's say we pick some here and grab some here as well. If we want to be able to sort by more than one, what we want to do is select all of our data and then come up to data. And then we want to do advanced arrange sorting. And then if you kind of look over here, you can see we can pick a column. And so we could pick, for example, column D. And then remember, A to Z is smallest to largest. And so this would be the most pressing ones would be first. But then you could add another one. And so, for example, then you could sort by subject and course if you wanted in column E. You could do by column F in progress. So let's just do by subject then and do sort. And you can see it just popped those in there like that. All right, so that is it for today's video. Make sure to check out the other videos on our channel for more tutorials on both Google Sheets and Google Apps Script. And as always, have a great day.